This is E&N with Ed Neusbit. Hello and welcome to E&N with Ed Neusbit. I'm Ed Neusbit. Today, we are joined by Bastion of Truth Kellyanne Conway, infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci, and television's Dr. Oz. But first, the coronavirus continues to take its toll on our health, our jobs, our patients, and apparently our intelligence. Over a month into a pandemic that has infected over 2 million people, nearly a third of whom are American, 8 U.S. governors are still refusing to issue mandatory stay-at-home orders. Why? Perhaps because they're all Republicans, and take their lead from the self-proclaimed stable genius Republican who initially said that it was a Democrat hoax, then that it was just one person from China, then that we only had 15 cases and that would soon be down to 0, then that it's just like the flu and come on, we should still go to work. Then that it was just a ploy to delegitimize the election results. Then that it's Obama's fault because he didn't have the right tests for a virus that didn't yet exist. Then that it's China's fault for not telling us sooner. Then that nobody could have predicted this. Then when states called for ventilators, that it was their fault for not stockpiling them years ago because they should have predicted this. Then that we should practice social distancing while standing next to and repeatedly shaking hands with a bunch of people. Then that if we have 100,000 deaths, that's a win, because it could be a lot more. Then when US deaths crept over 10,000, instead of calming the public, you chose to brag about your social media followers. Then that we should take a non-approved malaria medication that the doctor standing next to you said we really shouldn't. Then that we should wear masks in public to slow the spread, but you won't be adhering to your own guidelines because you have to meet royalty and dictators. It's no wonder those poor governors are confused. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell had a more rational explanation for the government's tardy response to the crisis, claiming they were distracted by the impeachment trial. Which is like saying you forgot to get dressed this morning because you were distracted by breakfast. Yes, it's tough being an adult. Sometimes you have to do 2 things at the same time. Spoiler alert, women have been doing it for millennia. It's why we're alive in the first place. But to bring some much-needed clarity, we are joined now by presidential advisor Kellyanne Conway. Mrs. Conway, break it down for us. What's the real truth here?
The truth, Ed? You can't handle the truth.
Oh, I beg to differ. I think that's what people are desperate for right now.
Hillary.
I'm sorry?
Hillary. Her emails. She's who's responsible.
You're not honestly trying to pin the coronavirus on Hillary Clinton. That's a stretch even for you.
It's a virus, Ed. In those emails, Hillary's emails, a virus. A virus that infected our computers, and now it's infected us. This isn't COVID-1, Ed.
Crossing now to someone with a useful opinion, infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci. Thanks for joining us. You heard Mrs. Conway there. Is it possible for a virus to jump from computers to humans?
That is a great question, Ed. Well, only in Hollywood movies is the short answer. From what we understand, a virus can only travel within the same species, or in this case, jumping species. But although it may make some changes and grow and adapt, it is not, to my knowledge, capable of moving to anything without a pulse, Ed.
Oh, that's a relief. Now, what's the prognosis for humanity? Any good news?
Well, COVID-19, we're screwed, Ed. We're totally screwed.
Well, that's unfortunate. Perhaps our resident TV doctor, Dr. Oz, can give us something shiny to look forward to. How do we get out of this nightmare, Dr. Oz?
Well, first we got to get our mojo back, and I got to tell you, schools are a very appetizing opportunity. I saw a very interesting piece in the Lancet Journal, which stated that opening schools could only cost us between 2 to 3% in total mortality. So that's real positive.
Doesn't the Hippocratic Oath state first do no harm?
Well, yeah, don't twist it, Ed. 2 to 3% mortality isn't really harm to the remaining 97 to 98%.
But how can you describe death as appetizing? I mean, are you a doctor or a vampire?
I'm actually losing you, Ed.
Well, thank you, Dr. Oz. And it appears that the good news doesn't stop there. Some Republicans are suggesting the elderly can return to work first because the country needs them to keep the economy going. And, well, they're expendable. Former TV host and radio personality Glenn Beck proclaimed, "I would rather have my children stay home and all of us who are over 50 go in," adding, "I would rather die than kill the economy." What a remarkably selfless act. Go for it, Glenn. We're all behind you. And finally, when Americans were briefly concerned to think their president had had an empathy transplant, Trump swiftly dismissed that notion with a bold proclamation, "I'm the president. I have total authority." Then abruptly ceded that authority to individual states. And with that, he presented a three-step approach to reopening the country. And when flag and gun-toting protesters in Michigan, unable to control themselves and their emotions and clearly not giving a stuff about their fellow citizens, massed together in a flagrant disregard for social distancing, Trump didn't call them to order like a real president, but instead chose his good Nazi approach, saying simply, "They're frustrated." Then later tweeting, "Liberate Michigan" in all caps, and also "Liberate Minnesota" and "Liberate Virginia" and "Save your great Second Amendment." Remember when he said it was up to the governors to decide when to relax these measures? I know it was a long time ago. It was yesterday. Today he's calling for the violent overthrow of those same duly elected governors. What a unifying force our president is in this time of crisis. We end tonight on some lighter news. Convicted felon and former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen is set to be released from prison early over concerns he might contract the coronavirus. He'll serve the remaining 2 years of his sentence under house arrest, with the rest of the American population. How lucky for us. Don't forget to wash your hands, wear your masks, and join us next time on ENN with Ed Neusbit for all the news you never knew you needed. I'm Ed Neusbit. Cheerio.
And we're clear.
You see, what I don't get is how can I go to studio, put on a suit while, Seth and Jimmy and Trevor wear pajamas and broadcast from their couches?
I could ask you why I'm still coming into studio risking my life, Ed.
Well, that's an easy one, Jeremy. You're over 50.